Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another episode of Conservative Daily Podcast. I am your host, Joe Otto. Max is out again today because he's still has a baby. So we'll give him off a couple of days. Today we're going to be talking about Ted Cruz, the big tech CEOs, and what they're doing right now in testifying in Congress. So some interesting things have happened today that I think, I always talk about this reckoning, like there's a reckoning that's coming, and I think it's coming. It's hard to ignore. It's right at our front door. Big tech has literally taken over everything. It's been weaponized for an ideology, specifically a leftist, very left-leaning, they call it progressive, I would call it radical agenda. And so as a result of that, just any voice of reason, it almost is like an echo chamber that they've created because they've suppressed and oppressed people's opinions. They've been the big bully on the block, and they've weaponized technology, and then the media weaponizes the media. And so normal, everyday people find themselves in the middle of this, feeling hopeless, helpless. So we're gonna walk through some of what is happening on the Hill. And Josh is in here, and he finally got everything straight today, so we won't have as many problems as we had yesterday.
Close as possible, my friend. Close as possible.
But I'll tell you, it was interesting. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about what Ted Cruz did to Dorsey. And for those of you who don't know, Jack Dorsey is the CEO of Twitter. And Jack, in a very calm voice, we're going to play that entire, I think it's 9 or 10 minutes. Yeah, over time. But then we'll break it up a little bit and talk a little bit about what was said. But, Ted Cruz did a masterful job of actually just breaking down Jack Dorsey. And as he answered questions, and was supposedly being truthful, Ted Cruz would come back and talk about just how untruthful Jack Dorsey was. So let's just jump right into it. You good? Are we good on your side?
I'm just can't wait to see what you're going to say about watching Ted Cruz fire a cruise missile at Dorsey and watch that whole thing burn apart.
Unbelievable.
It was crazy, dude. I was pulling that
crazy
stuff, and I was like, "Oh my god!" That's why.
And then Ron Johnson. Some people have actually been watching it. Ron Johnson literally annihilated the CEOs as well. So let's get right into it. Josh, we're gonna start off with we have cut 5. We're gonna go straight to cut 5. And guys, I'm going to be talking through this a little bit. I'm going to let you hear some of it, but we'll start at the beginning.
Mr. Dorsey, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections?
No.
Stop it right there. Dorsey comes out and says, in response to the question, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections? Now, what's interesting about his entire line of questioning is that he starts out by saying the very thing they're there testifying for. So, all right, let's keep going.
You don't believe Twitter has any ability to influence elections?
No, we are one part of a broad spectrum of communication channels that people have.
Stop.
So you're testing.
Okay, I'm going to let it go for a couple minutes after this. But the argument that big tech is making is that if you don't like Twitter, you can go to Facebook. If you don't like Facebook, you can go to Instagram. If you don't like Instagram, that there's tons of different channels out there. You can go to Google. Well, what happens when all of these channels collude with each other, right, and basically do the same thing? Suppress the voice that they don't like, that is a dissenting voice, that goes against their radical viewpoints. Okay, keep going, Josh.
To this committee right now that Twitter, when it silences people, when it censors people, when it blocks political speech, that has no impact on elections?
People have choice of other communication channels with which.
Not if they don't hear information. If you don't think you have the power to influence elections, why do you block anything?
Well, we have policies that are focused on making sure that more voices on the platform are possible. We see a lot of abuse and harassment.
Stop for a minute. Listen, if you're watching this, you need to share, right? You need to hit the share button, drop a comment down there, give us a like. You need to do things to break the algorithm. We're having a conversation about Facebook and Twitter and all of these social media platforms. Listen, just last month on Facebook, we were reaching 6.5 million people a month. 6.5 million. That's not on a picture because a picture went viral. That's because we were having thousands of people that were watching our podcast, that were engaging with our content. That today is down to just over 700,000. Now, the good part is that people have migrated to different platforms and they're using different opportunities to reach us. But they're talking about the very thing that we're invested in right now. We've had to go and actually create an entire other technology to make sure that we can actually get a true voice, stories out there to you. But they don't block us, and there's other channels, right? And that their policy is not to have an opinion one way or another, that they're somehow a bipartisan platform, and they don't come after conservatives. All right. Keep going. But you need to hit the share button. Please hit the share button.
Real quick, Joe, does it look like Jack should be selling essential oils and holding crystals?
He
looks kind of funny, doesn't he?
He does look a little funny.
Ends up silencing people and having them leave from the
Look
platform.
at that nose ring.
All right, Mr. Dorsey,
gosh.
I find your opening questions, your opening answers absurd on their face. But let's talk about the last 2 weeks in particular. As you know, I have long been concerned about Twitter's pattern of censoring and silencing individual Americans with whom Twitter disagrees. But 2 weeks ago, Twitter, and to a lesser extent Facebook, crossed a threshold that is fundamental in our country. 2 weeks ago, Twitter made the unilateral decision to censor the New York Post in a series of 2 blockbuster articles, both alleging evidence of corruption against Joe Biden, the first concerning Ukraine, the second concerning communist China. And Twitter made the decision, number one, to prevent users, any user, from sharing those stories. And number two, you went even further and blocked the New York Post from sharing on Twitter its own reporting.
Stop it.
Why did Twitter?
So, for those of you that don't know, there was a big story with the New York Post, right? And the New York Post is not just a small publication. It is a large media publication. And they published a story about Hunter Biden and the laptop. And what you're about to hear is that they have a policy against hacking. They have a hacking policy. So if somebody hacks information, Twitter did not want to become the platform that hacked information was disseminated on. Yet that information was never hacked. And the New York Post actually came out in the story and told everyone where they actually got the information. That it was Hunter Biden's laptop. Hunter Biden dropped it off to get fixed. Hunter Biden did not actually pick it up. And therefore, as a result of Hunter Biden signing off, that if he doesn't actually pick up the laptop, that the information and the laptop itself becomes the property of the business owner. So there was no hacking that happened. So you're going to hear a little bit more from Jack Dorsey. By the way, check out that little nose ring he's got in there. It's cute. Go ahead.
Make the decision to censor the New York Post?
We had a hack materials policy that we.
When was that policy adopted?
2018.
In 2018, I believe.
In 2018. Go ahead. What was the policy?
So the policy is around limiting the spread of materials that are hacked. We didn't want Twitter to be a distributor for hacked materials. We found that the New York Post, because it showed the direct materials, screenshots of the direct materials, and it was unclear how those were attained, that it felt.
Stop.
That it felt.
It was not unclear how that information was obtained. The New York Post wrote it, 100% wrote it inside of the article. It said where they got the information. It was clear. They verified it. But he's saying because that information was actually shared, that the actual screenshots of the information on the computer were shared, that somehow it violated the hack policy. Now, what you're going to hear is that they had to make a decision very quickly. The information came out, and then Twitter, before anyone could touch that information, right? Literally, I think they said, Josh, that somewhere around 30,000 people were actually engaged in that content before they shut it down. So not a huge amount of people. It means somewhere along the line, they knew this was coming out. When it actually came out, they decided that, this violates the hack policy, that a group of people got together and made a political decision to block free speech. That's actually what happened. But listen on more to Mr. Dorsey nose ring.
Under this policy. Now,
so in your view, if it's unclear the source of a document, and in this instance, the New York Post documented what it said the source was, which it said it was a laptop owned by Hunter Biden that had been turned into a repair store. So they weren't hiding what they claimed to be the source. Is it your position that Twitter, when you can't tell the source, blocks press stories?
No, not at all. Our team made a fast decision.
What he said is it is not a policy to block news stories. But we already know that that's not true, because on Conservative Daily, we get blocked all the time on Twitter, on Facebook, all the time. We get strikes against us. They don't use AI to block us. They use a person that sits there and goes, oh my gosh, there's a huge amount of influence that's happening over here at Conservative Daily. We got to stop it from happening. Let's go ahead and hit the button and make sure that the tens of thousands of people that are actually connected to it can't see it. And other people that search for it can't see it. This isn't just a Facebook problem. This is a Google problem. This is a Twitter problem. This is an Instagram problem. They are throttling any voice that is a dissenting voice. What they don't know, though, is that organizations like me that are in the data business, right, we are seeding the lawsuit. What that means is that we're gathering information from other groups. We're collecting all the data related to it. We're collecting the strikes that go against them. And then we are going to have one of the largest lawsuits against big tech you've ever seen. See, I'm in big tech. I'm in it. We're a data company. We're in it. It's the reason why we get to have the opportunity to have this voice right now. It's the reason we were able to find out, and this is something I'm squirreling just a little bit, but squirreling just a little bit. We were able to find these Antifa activist journalists that are attacking people because they don't like the way that the fact that they're conservative. They don't like the fact that they're standing up. They're doxing people. They're creating and handing over information to their Antifa buddies to go terrorize people at their house. So I use that data to find out who they are. And now we're going after them. And I haven't even started with all the information we were able to collect. I haven't even started. We hired an entire team, and their only job is to actually find as much information as we possibly can on these activist Antifa journalists. And we had to do that because this ideology, this cancer across our society, it's everywhere. But inside of the big tech, man, let's play some more of Mr. Nose Ring Dorsey.
The enforcement action, however, of blocking URLs, both in tweets and in DM, in direct messages, we believe was incorrect. And we changed it.
Today, right now, the New York Post is still blocked from tweeting 2 weeks later.
Yes, they have to log into their account, which they can do at this minute, delete the original tweet, which fell under our original enforcement actions, and they can tweet the exact same material in the exact same article, and it would go through.
So, Mr. Dorsey, your ability is you have the power to force a media outlet. Let's be clear. The New York Post isn't just some random guy tweeting. The New York Post has the fourth highest circulation of any newspaper in America. The New York Post is over 200 years old. The New York Post was founded by Alexander Hamilton. And your position is that you can sit in Silicon Valley and demand of the media that you can tell them what stories they can publish, and you can tell the American people what reporting they can hear. Is that right?
No, this was a, every person, every account, every organization that signs up to Twitter agrees to a terms of service. Terms of service is
so
public.
Media outlets must genuflect and obey your dictates if they wish to be able to communicate with readers. Is that right?
No, not at all. We recognize an error in this policy, and specifically the enforcement.
You're still blocking their posts. You're still blocking their posts. Right now, today, you're blocking their posts.
We're not blocking the posts. Anyone can tweet.
All right, stop for a minute. Stop. So, by the way, there's a bunch of people in the comments that are saying that they can't share it. So I'm going to walk through this if you're on Facebook and you want to share it. Rather than just sharing and hitting the share button, what you can do is actually hit the actual post on Facebook, and you can copy the URL, and then you can go back over to your Facebook page, and you can paste the URL if you're on a computer. Now, if you're on your phone, it's a little bit different. But you can actually take that URL, post it on your page, and that is just like sharing it. But I want to point something out. And we're only talking about Twitter right now. But on Facebook, I think we have somewhere around 50 shares. And we've got 143 people that are actually watching. We've got a computer system that's set up in 2 offices over. And we have 10 computers that are VPN'd in, just so that Facebook is actually paying attention. I know they are. And then we actually create a model where we actually share from those computers, and we see how many people that are friends with those actually see that information. Yesterday, the information on those 10 computers that actually got reached out, a total pool of all the people that were registered in that room, was somewhere around 1,200 people. 3 people, it showed up in their feed. 3 out of 1,200. So it just shows you that Facebook is doing everything they can to keep our message, the message that we're talking about right now, to keep it completely off of Facebook. They don't want people to see this. They don't want people to see the truth, right? They want to create their own truth. They want to destroy everything we are as America. So I think what you're going to get to on this second part, that when Ted Cruz starts speaking to Nose Ring Dorsey, is that he did just that. He's going to tell you why they don't do something, and then Ted Cruz is going to let it play out the rest of the way.
Post on their Twitter account.
If they go into their account.
No is your answer to that. No, unless they genuflect and agree with your dictates. Let me ask you something. You claimed it was because of a hacked materials policy. I find that facially highly dubious and clearly employed in a deeply partial way. Did Twitter block the distribution of the New York Times' story a few weeks ago that purported to be based on copies of President Trump's tax returns?
We didn't find that a violation of our terms of service and this policy in particular, because it was reporting about the material. It wasn't distributing the material.
Okay, well, that's actually not true. They posted what they purported to be original source materials, and federal law, federal statute makes it a crime, a federal felony, to distribute someone's tax returns against their knowledge. So that material was based on something that was distributed,
and yet they let it go.
Federal law, and yet Twitter gleefully allowed people to circulate that. But when the article was critical of Joe Biden, Twitter engaged in rampant censorship and silencing.
And again, we recognized errors in that policy. We changed it within 24 hours. This is.
But you're still blocking the New York Post. You haven't changed it.
We have changed it. They can log into their account, delete the original tweet.
You forced a Politico reporter to take down his post about the New York Post as well. Is that correct?
Within that 24-hour period, yes. But we, as the policy has changed, anyone can tweet this article.
So Twitter takes the view you can censor the New York Post, you can censor Politico, presumably you can censor the New York Times or any other media outlet. Mr. Dorsey, who the hell elected you and put you in charge of what the media are allowed to report and what the American people are allowed to hear? And why do you persist in behaving as a Democratic super PAC, silencing views to the contrary of your political beliefs?
Let's give Mr. Dorsey a few seconds to answer that, and then we'll have to conclude this segment.
Well, we're not doing that, and this is why I opened
You are
this year
doing that.
with calls for more transparency. We realize we need to earn trust more. We realize that more accountability is needed to show our intentions and to show the outcomes.
Thank you, Senator.
So I hear the concerns and acknowledge them, but we want to fix it with more transparency.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. The ranking member has deferred now to.
I want to point out that who the hell do you think you are? Who do they think they are? Let's call it what it is. They are the dictatorship. They are a group of people that have gotten together to destroy everything we are about America. And by the way, we use it. We actually use Facebook. We use Twitter, right? We adapt our technology around decisions that they make at Google for search engine optimization, for how you buy ads. We adapt as people to them. They don't adapt to us. I mean, think about that. These people don't want transparency. They want profit. And frankly, it's a capitalist society, so good for them. But they don't get to destroy the fiber of our country by weaponizing technology and taking away our fundamental right to speech, to just speaking, to having an opinion. You don't get to have an opinion until I tell you you have an opinion. That's what they're saying right now. Guys, you can call. The phones are on, right? All right, it's not up there, but 888-441-1121. 888-441-1121. Call up and give me an idea what you think. We have some more stuff to go through, obviously, but the censorship is real, right? And the effects of that censorship, the damage that censorship does is real. Elections have consequences. Now, keep in mind that the New York Post posted this as, frankly, election ballots were going out in many states. So they actually did act as a super PAC. They acted as if they were a Democrat super PAC. That Democrat super PAC, knowing that material was going to go out, knowing the damning nature of what we're only getting the tip of the iceberg right now. There's so much more on that computer that they haven't even released. But just as the ballots were going out, and by the way, you could say, well, all right, but why did they wait until the ballots go out to actually put the story out? All right, I will rebut to that, and I will tell you this. Why did the FBI hold on to it since December of 2019? Why? Why did the FBI stand as a proxy for the Democrat Party in weaponizing one of the most elite organizations in our country that is supposed to stand for justice? It's supposed to. But sadly, it doesn't. It doesn't stand for justice. Why in December did the information on this laptop not come out? Why, when this was referred to the Attorney General, right? The New Jersey Attorney General, I think I'm right on that, right? New Jersey Attorney General. Why did the New Jersey Attorney General, having all of this information, then send it back to the FBI? So you send it to the FBI sits on it. We go through an entire impeachment environment where they impeach President Trump. They impeach President Trump for the exact thing that not he didn't do, but that Joe Biden did. Joe Biden was corrupt. Joe Biden defrauded the American people. He used his office in order to gain financial benefit for not just him, but for his family and for others. I don't know how we can have a conversation, a truthful conversation, an authentic conversation, right, that involves truth, and have Facebook block it right now. Have comments that come back that say, hey, I can't, my video keeps freezing. Guys, we're all actually trying to get on Parler too on a live platform, so we'll get that done as well. But how is it that we're having a conversation and we actually can't have a conversation with everyone that wants to hear it? How? Censorship. Because the First Amendment only applies if you have this radical ideology, right? And you believe that God doesn't exist. I'm just going to say it, right? If you believe God doesn't exist, we love you. Yeah, they love you. Ooh, love you. If you believe that, you can be a pink unicorn when you grow up, we love you. If you can pierce every part of your body, right, and create a new societal norm that anything goes. Let's go smoke marijuana and do drugs and set up Narcan stations all over the city and let homeless people poop everywhere. I'm sorry, but that's really what's happening. Let's let all of this stuff happen in our society. And by the way, if you support that, because we just should love on people as they hate on people that just want societal norms. They want accountability. So if you want accountability, I'm sorry, you don't have a voice. If you want to fix some of the things that the Democrats have done in order to create and erode our country holistically, then we're going to come after you. We're going to come after you. They went after Trump, not because he was a racist, because that's all he had on him. Look, we all have stuff that has happened in our past, right? All of us. We've all done things that we regret. You live with an open door or a closed door. You either hide those things in the closet or you let them out. I tend to let them out. I tend to put them out there on the front lawn, right? A lot of people don't. But see, the left doesn't have a conscience. They're sociopaths. You're talking about rapists and pedophiles and closet racists. You can't have that type of belief system and have that match up to having a conscience. So do you think they care? They think doxing affects people. It only affects people because you're not willing to accept yourself where you are, not where they want you to be. So on suppressing your First Amendment, right, your free speech, on the other side, they want to attack you for who you are. But those attacks go unnoticed on social media. They don't care to do that. But you can call, I saw one of the comments was, you can call someone a stupid men. These are stupid men. And get banned from Facebook for 3 days. Right? There is no set of rules. They can create whatever rules they want. And the outcome is that as a society, we are eroding. We are letting what the Democrats have done in every city that they lead. We are letting that leach out into everything we are as a country. It's leached into our education system. It's leached into everything that we do. So, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer because yesterday was a great day. We had a great day celebrating Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation into the Supreme Court. We're winning. But I'll say the same thing I said yesterday. We have to continue to have this Ted Cruz mentality to call a spade a spade. I like to play cards. I'll call a spade, right? But we have to be willing to do that. And if we're not willing to do that, then we basically are laying it at the door and letting them take it. And by the way, we deserve them to be able to take our country if we're not willing to fight for it. So there's some things that I want to go through that some other clips that we want to go through here. I went off on a little bit of tangent, but the tangent was related to what we're going through right now as a country, right? So I want to show winners, losers. Is that image 3? Image 3. So Blackburn, so this is from Fox Live blog team. This was earlier today. Blackburn accuses Facebook of picking winners and losers, beginning to insert yourself into these issues of free speech. Zuckerberg is what he says. I believe strongly in free speech, but I do think, like all equities, it is balanced against other equities like safety and privacy. And even the people who believe in the strongest possible interpretation of the First Amendment still believe that there should be some limits on speech when it could cause imminent risk of physical harm. How in the world is cutting off a viewpoint, a conservative viewpoint, anyone that does not agree with the radicalism that they actually have, right? Radical. They're radical. These are extremists. So if you don't agree with that, it has the ability to create physical harm. What's the physical harm? Is the physical harm that maybe people will actually make a decision not to do drugs, right? To actually go out and better themselves and get a job and try to become a productive part of society? Is that the physical harm? Is the physical harm that we might actually wake up to the fact that we pay too much in taxes? Please tell me, Mark Zuckerberg, what it is that you look like a robot, by the way. Tell me how that interferes or creates physical harm. Is the physical harm maybe that they don't get indoctrinated in second grade and told that they can decide what gender they are? Where they're not being recruited by advocate teachers or a teachers union that is actually pushing down information and disseminating information into the school system that indoctrinates the kids to hate America or to think that they're racist. I mean, imagine that. They're actually pushing stuff into schools that is telling kids that you have white privilege, is trying to guilt white people into doing what? Submitting? Is that what the outcome is? Because these kids did something wrong being born white? Last time I checked, they didn't know that they were born white. Matter of fact, they didn't even know they were white until someone pointed out they were white. Most of the time, kids don't care. I certainly know I didn't. And I remember the time when I was in 6th grade, 7th grade, when I was called a reverse Oreo. I was called that. Dad's black, my mom's white. I was called a reverse Oreo. And I'm thinking to myself, what's that supposed to mean? And they're like, oh, you're white on the outside and black on the inside. I mean, imagine that. Not knowing that that's how you would define yourself, yet that's how you're defined. And that's what's happening. That's what the left is doing. The left is literally trying to destroy every fiber of what we are. But like Zuckerberg just said, you know, there has to be limits to free speech. Those limits for them are just on ideological lines. If you're an extremist, then you could talk. If you're not an extremist and you don't believe in doing drugs and just a free-for-all society, right, then you can speak. But free speech, physical harm, you know, if physical harm is a limit, then Facebook literally has violated every rule of free speech. Because 99% of what comes out of the left's mouth is vile, vitriol, hatred. While they say they're for love and peace. But only if they're standing next to someone else who said, I'm for love and peace as long as you allow me to do whatever I want to do with no accountability. It's like the spoiled kid that always got what he wanted, that ended up going on through life killing people, running people over with DUIs. Let's not hold them accountable either. DUIs, that's not dangerous. Yeah, just go drink and drive. Go drink and drive. Let's put up image 2. Big tech on payroll. So this is from McGill-California. This is a tweet, and it says, this pic of the quote-unquote big tech hearing pretty much tell you most of D.C. is on the payroll. And what you see is there's nobody there. There's no one there. And if you're listening in, you can see that there was 2 people sitting there. Because the interests are not served by having Democrats show up. So the people that did show up were the Republicans. And then you had Democrats, by the way, that are out there talking. And while they're talking, which is absolutely amazing to me, while they're talking, guys, hit the share button. Hit the share button. And we already know that the number's not right. It says 132 people that are watching. We already know that it's more than that. The text from next door says that there are 23 people just within our ecosystem that are watching. But we expect this from Facebook. We expect it. But what they can't stop is they can't stop that we're out there everywhere now. We're everywhere. We're on every channel, right? We're getting phone calls from people all over the country. Hey, can we syndicate your show? The world. Oh yeah. We're what, number 30 in Auckland, 30 across the world in New Zealand. So where was I? What was I talking about? You just got me off. Okay, let's play this. Let's go to the third cut. Let's go to cut 2. No, I already got cut 2. Image 2. Let's go to image 1. So, yeah, we did talk about this, but I want everybody, if you have Twitter, I want you to go on Twitter, and I want you to mention what's going on in the campaign. In the hearing. I want you to mention it. So let's go to cut 2.
I have yet to hear, and maybe it'll come later, but I've yet to hear anything about the suppression of the Hunter Biden scandal and the story in the New York Post that were flat out suppressed. I think these guys are having a hard time, and they're struggling, in fact, to justify the censorship which they have placed on these conservative views. What do you say?
They're having a hard time justifying it. They're not answering the questions. And by the way, we're talking about Facebook, right? And we're talking about YouTube, and we're talking about all these different, tech companies, right, that do the censorship. We've stayed away from Google, the big bad Google. Google used to stand for everything that's good, and they've turned into everything that's bad. They have. They do everything to squish the competition. They're not unlike Amazon. Look, and I'm a capitalist. I believe that everyone should have opportunity, but big companies should not be able to suppress other opportunities based on ideology. They shouldn't allow that to happen. They shouldn't be able to deplatform all in the same day. Like Alex Jones, hate Alex Jones. I don't care what you think about Alex Jones. I'm going to tell you something. Alex Jones has been right more time than he's been crazy or wrong. He has. I'm sorry. And I actually want to hear the comments on this. They should be pretty good. If I had to guess, they're going to be really good. Alex Jones is, okay, maybe a little bit eccentric. Maybe. But is he entitled to his opinion? Is he entitled to actually put that message out there in the marketplace? Is he entitled to use platforms? Is he? I just want to know if he is. Or do we make exceptions for Americans that want to speak up? So InfoWars, you may hate them, may like them, may not, whatever. It doesn't matter if you hate them or like them. The reality of it is that Facebook and Twitter and YouTube all on the same day deplatformed him. John Tig Tigan, an American hero, a man that was actually told to stand down. He was actually told not to go into Benghazi, to go to the aid of the Americans. He was told not to. Facing death. How many of you facing death would actually run into a firefight? How many? How many of you would run into a firefight? Knowing that bullets are going to be flying, there's a high chance that you could die. It just takes one shot. There's bullets, there's thousands of bullets going your way. There's terrorists on the other side of those bullets. They're throwing bombs, right? Mortars. All they have to do is turn the mortar the wrong way or the right way, and you're dead. And by the way, there was lots of Americans that were killed that day, but he ran into that. You know what Facebook did? Facebook said that, hey, you reposted a video that we said went against our community standards, so we're just going to take your Facebook page down. Oh, we're not going to stop there. We're taking your Instagram page down. We are silencing you as an American. We're silencing an American hero. See, it doesn't stop at Alex Jones. It doesn't stop at Politico. It doesn't stop at the New York Post. It stops at the very fiber of us as a country. An American hero. They gave everything. Served in the U.S. Marine Corps. Then I go, no, he was a contractor. He was over there with GSR. Maybe. He was over there with GSR. That was a necessary thing that happened. The government sanctioned it. They actually put aside money in order to get people in the private sector to help the military. And he's like, look, I was in the U.S. Marine Corps. I'll go. He wasn't a hired mercenary. He was working side by side with American soldiers, and he is an American soldier and an American hero. But Facebook and Twitter and Instagram said, nope, we get to silence you. Guys, I can't even fathom the idea that we're going through this entire process, right? And that big tech CEOs just get to do whatever they want. It's disturbing. It's absolutely disturbing. So let's play.
I would just mention, too, that, Joe, there were some people that were just associated with TIG who also had their entire Facebook pages removed, who were just associating with him.
Yeah.
So it was disturbing when one of our, I won't mention who they were, came to us and said they got rid of my Facebook page, which I had for 12 years.
All family photos, you name
everything. Memories of their life gone because they had the audacity to just have a relationship with John Tig Tigan.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah. Guys, this is real. This is real stuff. I'm being as authentic with you as I possibly can. I am talking truth. And as I'm sitting here talking truth to you, our Facebook stats are going down because people are not allowed to watch this video. Just imagine that. Just imagine a world in which we can't talk truth. That this is all true. What did I say that has not been true? Josh, anything I say has not been true?
Nothing.
Anything.
It's been 100% true.
Anybody in the comments, tell me, anything that I said is not true? No?
It's just so scary that someone can push buttons to make me go away.
And
where does it stop?
The significance of what you just said, Josh, the significance of being able to push a button and literally make people disappear. That's what they're doing. They're delegitimizing people based upon their ideology. This is not America. This is not a free country. I want to tell everyone that's actually listening here right now, and if you're listening on the podcast, I still am going to tell you, if you're listening in on this podcast and you've downloaded it from Podbean or one of the other sources, you can text freedom, the word freedom, to 89517. So text freedom, FREEDOM, to 89517. Right? From there, every time we come on the show, we'll actually drop and be able to let you know that the show is starting. We are going to be pushing out a new technology that allow for us to do it off of Facebook. We still might be on Facebook. We might not. We've had thousands of people literally over the last couple of days that have signed up to get this information. Thousands. Yet we have a couple hundred people that are actually watching right now. Why? Because Facebook doesn't want this story out there. They don't want to know that the Democrats are nothing but a bunch of pedophiles, rapists, and closet racists. Maybe not all of them, but you're the complicit with the behavior if you stand next to them, or you are one. I'm sorry. Because it's the same thing that you say for the right. You can't support white supremacists. Well, I don't think of anyone out there, the 99% of the conservatives that are out there, that would even remotely support white supremacists at all. But see, the right, the left, these loony radical people basically have labeled anyone that actually supports Donald Trump racist. They become the arbiter of reality. They do. They get to tell all of us what we are. They get to label us. And when we label them, they get mad. They get mad when you call them a rapist or a child, a pedophile. They get mad. Or a closet racist. Oh, I'm not racist. I have black friends. Oh, really? I think, okay. Well, I support, and my family is black. Oh, no, but you're a racist. Oh, no, wait, you're black and you're a conservative? Oh, no, you're an Uncle Tom. Oh, honey, we need to actually educate you. We need to educate you. See, you don't understand. They don't really love you. Well, what do you mean they don't love me? Because you're not showing any love for anyone. You scream and yell and use this rhetoric and all this other things on the left, and I'm supposed to follow that? That's nuts. That's crazy. I truly believe that in our country, our problems are actually being caused by big tech. They have chosen winners and losers. They have created an echo chamber, and that echo chamber is destroying the fiber of our country. It is. I'm sorry. It is. Tell me I'm wrong. 888-441-1121. Call up.
Hey, Joe, I'm under the impression that Mark Zuckerberg is a smart guy and knows how to run a computer, right? I mean, he might be able to do something like that?
Yeah.
Can I play this one for you? I just want to get your take on this
one.
Yeah,
come on. Let's go.
Go ahead.
Members should be advised at this point that we are unable to make contact with Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. We are told by Facebook staff that he is alone and attempting to connect with this hearing, and that they are requesting a 5-minute recess at this point.
5 minutes. So Mark Zuckerberg's won alone before this heaaring, which I don't believe for a second. He doesn't have 10 lawyers sitting around him, right?
100%. And he has a teleprompter.
Yes.
Which, by the way, we are a tech company, so we do blow up that stuff and we try to de-digitize what's on his eyes, right? So does he have a teleprompter? Does he not? Is someone else in the room? Is someone else not in the room?
So
right?
Why the heck can't he get connected then? I mean,
he can get. He just needed a 5-minute recess.
Right. So why was he doing? Was it an excuse? Was their tech not working? It just kind of shows that it's kind of the irony of him not being able to connect, right? Tech guru of the world.
Yeah. Because it's hard. It's hard being Mark Zuckerberg because we're attacking him. So let's stop people on Facebook from actually seeing it because we're attacking Mark Zuckerberg. How dare you attack me on my own platform? It's a publicly traded company, which, by the way, I divested from Facebook. I will make a recommendation that everyone else divest from Facebook.
Hey, Joe, one other thing. Didn't Facebook work with the Chinese government to kind of create their own version of Facebook to enforce communist, I guess for lack of a better word, law?
Oh.
And then how long before we start seeing that show up here? Because if he's doing it there, what's to stop him? I'm not saying he is, but, you know, to have access to that kind of technology, could they just switch buttons and push switches and whatnot here to make people disappear like we talked about before?
Well, and I don't want to talk about conspiracies of disappearing, right? I don't want to get into that, Josh. I really don't. And frankly, what I do want to talk about is that we are in a trying time right now where big tech is too big. It's just too big. It is not accountable to anyone, right? They are dictating not just the temperature of politics in this country, but in business capability to be successful. They're stopping businesses, small to medium businesses. They're destroying small to medium businesses. They make it more expensive for a small business to actually advertise on their platform than big businesses. This is truth. Absolutely true. Oh, no, it's the same pricing. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. Well, Google, you know, they charge you the same on the Google platform. No, they don't. That's not true either. Matter of fact, Google, I just want to just give you a little bit of a lesson on Google for those of you that don't know. Google's algorithms actually have the capability of serving up 100% of the people that are out there that are looking for the product. They have an opportunity to put you in front of every one of them. They do. They know who they are. But their system allows for it to be sparsed. In other words, they only take a small percentage of those people and show them your ad, right? Making room for other advertisers. So big tech does pick winners and losers. Now that pool gets larger if you spend more money on their platform. It gets less expensive for you to actually get leads in those environments. They use quality scores and they use different things inside of their environment. I know this is stuff that you're like, I don't really care about any of this stuff, but you should. Right? It's like not getting into the fundamentals of understanding down to a very minute level who represents you in your government. So I'm going to ask everyone here that's on here right now, do you know who runs your town or your city? Do you know who your town council members are? Do you know what your district is? Do you know who represents you at the state level, who represents you at the regional level? Do you know who your school board members are? Do you know who they are? Do you know what they represent? Right? Do you know it all the way up to the federal level? Are you paying attention to what's happening? Or is all this just above you? And then, frankly, I just don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved in politics. This isn't getting involved in politics, it's getting involved in your country. This is participating in the process. And the reason why I bring that up is because we're finally getting to the point where we're holding tech accountable. Finally. Do we get to go at their pace and let this go on for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years? Do we build new technology that allows for us to deplatform platforms? Do we build technology that allows for individuals to own their own data, eliminating the need for big tech altogether, or at least creating a legitimate way by which big tech can be held accountable? I mean, these are all questions that I have, and frankly, I'm in the middle of it. So, you know, Judy said, yes, I know all of the above. Yes. Well, I tell you, I'm excited about people actually getting involved and actually learning about what's happening in their country, even in their community, like what you do as a micro, not the macro. Let's not talk about what happens in Congress. We always want to talk about that, but those aren't the guys with the real power. I mean, they are to a certain degree, but really what happens at your level, and like in Colorado, we have a governor in Colorado who frankly is a dictator. He has abused the law, and frankly, it's been very difficult to get anybody to hold him accountable. Lawsuits keep coming, right? They're very expensive. They keep pushing back. Organizations become fractured, divided, always having a different way of doing things. And it puts us in a place where we can't get enough steam. We can't have that power in numbers. Josh is sending me a text message. A video of John. Oh, we got to put this up. So this just in.
This is like the Ron Johnson
Yeah.
stuff where he's just laying into tech kings, and it's fun.
All right, come on, put it up.
Let's do it.
Senator Johnson.
I'd like to start with a question for all three of the witnesses. You have public reports that you have different chat forums in all of your companies, and also public reports where the few conservatives that might work for your companies have certainly been harassed on those types of forums. I don't expect you to have taken poll of your employees, but I just want to get a kind of a sense, because I think it's pretty obvious. But would you say that the political ideology of the employees of your company is, let's say 50-50, conservative versus liberal progressive, or do you think it's closer to 90% liberal, 10% conservative? We'll start with Mr. Dorsey.
As you mentioned, I don't know the makeup of our employees because it's not something we ask or focus on.
Stop.
Just what do you think off the top of your head?
You're a data company. You telling me you don't actually know what the makeup is of the people that work for you? That is a bold-faced lie. That is a bold-faced lie. That's not a small lie. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not small. That's a huge lie. That's a lie of epic proportions. That's one of the big, that right there is probably the biggest lie. And frankly, I know if you just go and read if you read the information, the publicly available information, right, for the financial documents that are actually released that talk about what Twitter has the ability and doesn't have the ability to do, and how they've studied neural networks, right? Neural networks it is AI. You run those in parallel and it creates some great information, right? It's like a human brain, right? The machine learning that they have, how the people actually engage, the data of how they donate, where they donate to, right? They have access to all that information. I have access to all that information, right? And I'm telling you right now, he lied. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. Everyone out there in the tech world is going, oh my gosh, why did he lie? Well, I'm the CEO, so I have plausible deniability. You have to, as a CEO, I'm the CEO. I make decisions every day. Those decisions that I make have a lot to do with how I actually sparse, collect, deploy on data, right? How I analyze that data, how I use that for reporting and attribution and things like that. So he's lying. Well, let's play a little bit more.
Based on your chat rooms and kind of the people you talk to.
Not something I look for or look
Yeah,
at.
right. Okay, Mr. Pichai.
He just lied.
Senator, we have over 100,000 employees. For the past 2 years, we have hired greater than 50% of our workforce outside California. It does tend to be proportionate to the areas where we are in, but we have 1 million message boards at Google. We have groups like Republicans at, Liberals at, Conservatives at, and so on. And
Didn't answer the question.
We have definitely made an effort to make sure people of all viewpoints are welcome.
So
Not
again,
true.
if you want to, Mr. Zuckerberg, will you answer the question honestly? Is it 90-10 or is it 50-50? Which is it closer to?
Senator, I don't know the exact number, but I would guess that our employee base skews left-leaning.
Thank you for that honesty. Mr. Dorsey, you started your opening comments that you think that people don't trust you. I agree with that. We don't trust you.
Stop. Stop. All right, you can, so listen. Whew. I want to point something out. Google does, I think, about $4 trillion in revenue. Is that right? Globally, Alphabet? Pretty sure. It's a big number. Like, it's a big number. It's over $1 trillion. Okay, I know it's over $1 trillion. Josh is going to look it up for me right now. But they do $1 trillion in revenue globally with all their entities. Okay, they have 100,000 employees. 300 million people in the United States use Google. You have 100,000 people, and he lied. He absolutely lied. Sundar lied. He just lied to the American people. He lied to Congress. And he says that they have Republican platforms. I don't know if you guys saw on Project Veritas, but there is no, you feel comfortable inside of Google. I have family members that work for Google. worked or work for Google, right? And I will tell you that they do not feel comfortable talking about their viewpoints. Now, actually, one of my family members that works for Google, he is definitely left-leaning. So he's like, oh, there are no conservatives in our company. He literally said it to me. Chris Misman, there's no conservatives in our in Google. Yet he sits here and tells you that there's freedom of expression, that you have a ceiling above your head, that you can, no problem, 100%, you can have a viewpoint and be a conservative, and that we represent the people that we serve in the community. They have over 100,000 employees. I just want to show you that 100,000 employees, 330 million people in the U.S., 8 billion people in the world, 100,000 employees, right, that are actually dictating what you can and cannot see. If I can tell you right now, we don't know what people in the United States feel or think. I know that I feel that what we're talking about right now is legitimately the silent majority. I believe that. It's a silent majority. That we represent a majority of society. Yet 100,000 people can actually dictate and turn public opinion in different areas by manipulating their platform. That's dangerous, folks. 100,000 people. All right, let's go back to it.
You all say you're fair and you're consistent, you're neutral, you're unbiased. Mr. Dorsey, I think the most incredible answer I've seen so far in this hearing is when Senator Cruz asked, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections? Again, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections? You said no. Did you stick with that answer, that you don't even believe? And let's face it, you all believe that Russia has the ability to influence elections or interfere by using your social platforms. Mr. Dorsey, do you still deny that you don't have the ability to influence and interfere in our elections?
My answer was around people's choice around other communication channels.
No, your answer was, the question was, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections? And you said no. Do you still stand by that answer?
Twitter as a company, no. No,
you don't think you have the ability by moderation policies, by, as Senator Lee would call, and I would call it censoring, what you do with the New York Post. You don't think that censorship, that moderation of policies, you don't think that influences elections by withholding what I believe is true information from the American public? You don't think that interferes in elections?
Not our current moderation policies. Our current moderation policies are to protect the conversation and the integrity of the conversation around the elections.
Okay, for both Mr. Zuckerberg and Dorsey, who censored the New York Post stories or throttled them back, do either one of you have any evidence that the New York Post story is part of Russian disinformation, or that those emails aren't authentic? Do any of you have any information whatsoever they're not authentic, or that they are Russian disinformation? Mr. Dorsey,
we don't.
You have no. So why would you censor it? Why did you prevent that from being disseminated on your platform that is supposed to be for the free expression of ideas, and particularly true ideas?
We believed it fell afoul of our hacking materials policy. We judged in a
moment. What evidence did you have that it was hacked? They weren't hacked.
We judged in a moment that it looked like it was hacked materials.
You were wrong.
Surfacing, and we updated our policy and our enforcement within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Zuckerman? Mr. Zuckerberg?
Senator, as I testified before, we relied heavily on the FBI's intelligence and alerts to us, both through their public testimony and private briefings and alerts they gave us.
Did the FBI contact you and say the New York Post story was false?
Senator, not about that story specifically.
Why did you throttle it back?
General.
Why did you throttle it back?
They alerted us to be on heightened alert around a risk of hack and leak operations, around a released trove of information.
Stop for a second. Stop.
To be clear on this.
Stop. People, I want to point something out. The FBI. The FBI already had this information back in December of 2019. We're not talking about information that just showed up. It's not like it popped up and they had a conversation with the FBI. The FBI has already proven, and we can go all the way back to the text messages between FBI agents. We're like, oh, it's just a small group of bad actors in the FBI. Is it? Is it? Is there no checks and balances within that organization? They sat on this information about Joe Biden selling his seat as the vice president, selling access, punishing people, withholding $1 billion in aid, right, in a loan program, right? So his son could run off and make millions of dollars by using the influence that Vice President Biden had. And you know that President Obama knew about it. Just think about this. I believe that Ron is actually trying to paint him into a corner, and we're gonna see the rest of it, paint him into a corner. But I got to tell you, the way that he's answering, I'm sure that the FBI probably came and talked to Zuckerberg. I'm sure of it. I'm sure the conversations they had with Zuckerberg were, at best, hey, you need to be watching out for this because we knew about this back in December. I mean, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't people in the FBI do things to ingratiate an ideological viewpoint that they support? And if you remember, there was an FBI agent that said, I'm busy taking down America. That's what he said. I'm busy destroying what America is today. This communist Marxist ideology has permeated our government. It's a cancer. You get cancer in your arm, you got to cut your arm off. That's where we're at right now. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're at. We're at a place right now where we're going to listen to the rest of this, but big tech is doing exactly what big tech said that they do. They said that they would influence elections. They got mad because President Trump won. They blamed President Trump winning on Russia. Do you want to know why they said that? They said it because they don't believe that you are smart enough to see through BS. That you're smart enough to realize that the country is off its rails. And that for the last 8 years, President Obama has made us a weak nation and taken away opportunity and created this ideological kind of mastermind of how to destroy everything that we are as a country. I'm sorry, but that's actually what's happening. They don't think you're smart. They think you're dumb. And if you're from a middle America and you're a farmer and you're providing food for the rest of the country, they think you're just a dumb old country boy. By the way, nobody actually understands what farmers have to do or the equipment that they have to run would ever think that. Farmers are some of the most sophisticated people because they have to get a lot out of a very little piece of land. They have to deal with water issues. They might not have water, they may have water. They have to, even if they have water, they have to deal with allocation of water because, frankly, water rights are expensive. But nobody actually knows that. You can't even have a conversation with a normal person about the intelligence of a farmer who has to manage through TRQs, right? Which is the program of how food is actually released into the market. Most of you didn't even know what TRQs were. We use it for sugar for around the world. One of the largest sugar places is called Kanana Sugar. It's in Sudan. Nobody would ever know about it. You don't even know how you get sugar. They tell you that there's a shortage. What they don't tell you is that they have a 20-year supply of sugar that's on hand. But they have quantitative quantities that they allow into the country. See, everything that we think is true is generated by someone telling us that this must have happened. Otherwise, there's no way President Trump would have been elected. That they manipulated, that somewhere along the line. And by the way, they destroyed the company that President Trump used. And that company was bunk anyway. It was actually full of crap. Right? They said that they, had all this intelligence and everything else. No, they just used the algorithms for Facebook. I mean, they used the ability for Facebook. Facebook had technology out there. They found people that were smart enough to use that technology. And Cambridge Analytica actually came in, used that technology, and put the message in front of people. And the American people did not make an uneducated decision on voting for President Trump. They did not. They voted for President Trump because President Trump was the right person for the job. And I believe 100% that God wanted Trump in that position. Now you could say, Joe, I don't believe in God. I listen to you, but I don't believe in God. And I would tell you, great. You don't believe in God? I accept you where you are. But I believe that President Trump is a flawed man who spent 4 years in politics. That's it. The rest of the time in entertainment. 4 years he's been in politics. And in 4 years, they've changed the legacy of this man for his entire life, who has given more and done more for people in this country than most people could even think or fathom about doing for anyone. So I look at what's happening in big tech, and we walk through this process, and frankly, I'm disturbed by the fact that we're only to this place, that it took nearly 4 years to get here, and yet, we're finally having the conversation with big tech. We're finally just staying away from the edges. All right, let's play the rest of it.
We didn't censor the content. We flagged it for fact checkers to review, and pending that review, we temporarily constrained its distribution to make sure that it didn't spread wildly while it was being reviewed. But it's not up to us either to determine whether it's Russian interference nor whether it's true. We rely on the FBI and intelligence and fact checkers to do that.
Mr. Dorsey, you talked about your policies toward misinformation, and that you will block misinformation if it's against civic integrity, election interference, or voter suppression. Let me give you a tweet that was put up on Twitter. It says, Senator Ron Johnson is my neighbor and strangled our dog, Buttons, right in front of my 4-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter. The police refuse to investigate. This is a complete lie, but important to retweet and note that there are more of my lies to come. Now, we contacted Twitter, and we asked them to take it down, and here's the response. Thanks for reaching out. We escalated this to our support team for their review, and they have determined that this is not a violation of our policies. So, Mr. Dorsey, how could a complete lie, it's admitted it's a lie, how does that not affect civic integrity? How could you view that not as being election interference? Let's face it, that could definitely impact my ability to get reelected. How could that not be a violation of voter suppression? Obviously, if people think I'm strangling my neighbor's dog, they may not show up at the polls. That would be voter suppression. So why didn't Twitter take that? By the way, that tweet was retweeted like something like 17,000 times and viewed by and loved, commented, appreciated by over 50,000 people. How is that not voter suppression? How is that not election interference? How does that not affect the civic integrity?
Well, we'll have to look into our enforcement or non-enforcement in this case of the tweet, and we can get back to you with more context.
So, Mr.
Wow. He strangled the dog in front of my kids. I know this tweet is a complete lie, but please retweet it. This is the left. And frankly, Dorsey sat there like, oh boy, I'm in trouble. Big tech, the lawyers, I'm telling you right now, they're telling them you're in trouble. You're all in big trouble. You're in big trouble. Guys, if we put a bubble around tech and we actually create a workflow of tech, one of the things we did a couple years ago, and you guys aren't going to want to hear this, and it's not very interesting, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So one of the things we did in our company is that we removed ourselves from the cloud. In a time, by the way, when everyone's like cloud. And we're like, no, colo. Let's spool up a bunch of servers all over the country. We did it because Amazon, Google, right? Azure, so Microsoft Azure system. These are all different cloud environments. Were harvesting data. They were harvesting data from companies and then reutilizing that data based upon the footprint of that data. And then they would use that data in different environments or sell it to someone else in their environment in order to make money and to make someone else have more success. So on the backbones of Americans, you, me, right? That we have small businesses, big businesses, medium-sized businesses. We do all this stuff. They get to steal our data and resell it, unbeknownst to us. They get to resell it and give it to each other. Like they provide that intelligence to each other. So you have Amazon, you have Microsoft. Remember when Microsoft got broken up? That was a big deal, right? And then you have Google, and then you have Facebook, and you have Instagram. You have all these different ones, Snapchat, and I mean, there's a ton more. TikTok, right? Now, TikTok is the big bad wolf. By the way, I don't agree with that. I think that Google does enough damage by pushing out information to China. So does Facebook, right? So does Twitter, right? You'd be foolish to think that these guys aren't in bed on a multinational level, right? It's already happening. So whether or not TikTok gets purchased by someone in this country, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a great idea. But it also makes me realize that we're already in the conundrum of having all these companies actually telling us what we need to think. They're stealing our data. Us as Americans, we're breaking our backs like an ant colony, while these big tech companies harvest our information, harvest our opportunities, destroy small innovation. I mean, innovation doesn't happen. All right, let's put it this way. The CEO of YouTube is connected to who? The CEO of YouTube is married to who? This is interesting, folks. You want to see the how it all plays together. I just had an Alex Jones moment. I literally had an Alex Jones moment. I had a moment where
she is married to Dennis Troper.
Who is?
I don't know. The Google won't tell me. It just tells me who they're married to.
YouTube CEO related to. Okay, so she is, I keep forgetting who she's related to. 23andMe. Okay, so I don't know. Yeah, her sister is the co-founder and CEO of directs to the 23andMe founder, right? So if you actually start pushing all of these different organizations together, they're all related. So they're actually propping each other up as if they're building an oligarchy in tech. And by the way, that freezes out guys. And if you want to know what Google also did, Google came through and said, hey, in our search platform, on our analytics platform, we used to give you IP address. We used to give you access to information that we could download, right, inside of that platform that allow us to not have to depend on Google in order to make decisions. Well, Google sealed that up and said, you don't get access to the IP. We need to protect the data of the consumer. It doesn't protect the data of the consumer. It just makes it more expensive, which makes products more expensive because people actually have to spend more money in order to pay Google and Facebook and all of these other guys to get you, the consumer, to actually engage. That's truly what's happening. Truly. We have big tech companies that they're entitled to make a profit. I want them to make a profit, but I also want them to stop doing what they're doing and creating this oligarchy of technology that literally is destroying the fiber of our country. Look, weird may be fine. Having your own personal identity is fine. Recruiting kids to be gay, not fine. Telling kids that, hey, you're queer. That's the new thing. Like tell kids, hey, you look queer. Come over here. I'm queer too. What the hell is that supposed to mean? I mean, every kid was a little weird when they were growing up. Some were fat, some were short, some were tall, some were skinny, right? I mean, really, what are we talking about here? But big tech is actually controlling our lives, actually pushing us down a path where they get to dictate what happens to our kids and future generations. I can't even imagine what the country's going to look like in a couple decades if we don't start standing up now and taking on big tech. And I'm inside of big tech right now. And some of the technology that we own is technology that other people out there, we keep it very quiet. We keep our technology quiet. Why? Because we do have a fear of other technology companies like Google and Facebook and others, pressing down on that, causing us to fail. I'm telling you this because you should be afraid. As you're even watching this on Facebook and you're watching this on YouTube, when you're watching this video tonight, because you downloaded it on Podbean or one of these other ones, you have to understand that we're becoming beholden to technology. So one of the things that we're going to be building and doing and trying to do is deplatform those and give you other opportunities to own your own environment where that information never gets out to anyone else. But it also doesn't make it so difficult for you to operate that you become dependent on a Facebook or a Twitter. Because right now, I promise you, 90% of you have looked down at your phone and said, look, I have a notification on Twitter. I have a notification on Facebook, right? Well, I tell you the notification you didn't get. You didn't get the notification from Conservative Daily Podcast. You didn't get that on Facebook. You didn't get that on Twitter. They can, though. Right? You can. Yeah, if you actually text freedom, FREEDOM, I know you guys know how to spell, to 89517, you can. You can actually get that. look, I'm not going to be able to answer all the questions for you today about what happened at the hearing. I want to tell every one of you to take the time to listen to the hearing and listen to, by the way, and we don't have it yet because I didn't want to put it up. I didn't want to give them any airtime. Why give them airtime? But see how some of the Democrats actually responded, right? That apologized to the big tech firms. They apologized to them. Guys, I can't make this stuff up. Like we are literally talking about them saying, we're sorry we're here. I know you guys do a great job. Yeah, wink, wink. Thanks for being a super PAC for us. They violate the law. Project Veritas did a video, and I think maybe tomorrow, if Max isn't back by tomorrow, we're going to do a complete bring it all down. We're going to have James O'Keefe's information. We're going to push that out. We're going to bring down the I can't make this stuff up either. A consultant to a Republican who is actually a Democrat that is working against that Republican in order to harvest ballots to get Democrats elected. That actually happened. Go to Project Veritas. You can get to it on Twitter. You can get to it on Instagram. You go there, and literally, I kid you not, it is someone in Texas that has harvested 1,800 ballots. Voter fraud. They're using technology, they're using media, and now they're using people on the street to destroy everything about our country. I could literally talk about this all day. And I know we're running over, but I'm running over. So if you're staying with me, I'm going to continue to run over a little bit. What's the answer? What's the answer? What is the answer? How do we get past this? And Max would say, all right, well, let's fax Congress, right? Let's do that. So I think we should do that. And we're expanding that, by the way, to go to the state level. So I want to explain a little bit on this technology we're doing. We're going to give you the opportunity to reach out and contact people at a state level as well. We're going to go after these guys. But frankly, the way that we actually solve this problem is that we find the problem is big tech, right? And the only solution to that is actually to deplatform the platform. In other words, to find a way to not have to use that or rely on it for communication, for finding information, or even communicating with people that are like or not like-minded people. See, I have a lot of people in my circle that are not like-minded, people that don't agree with what I have to say. We have people that in the company that are gay, straight, people that are black. Our company is very diverse, 34% minority, 71% women, right? And they do a tremendous job. And you'd say, well, why doesn't that happen at Facebook? Why doesn't that happen at Google? Why are they less than 1%? Because they're for equality, obviously. Right? Doesn't that tell you what they're for? I think that it'd be hard pressed to say that anyone at Facebook is for equality. I think it's quite the opposite, actually. I think that they're for an agenda. They are for indoctrination. And it goes all the way up through our school systems. So I'm gonna give you my final word. And in this final word, I'm gonna push you. No, you don't have to start the music yet. Don't start the music yet. The final word that I want to tell you today revolves around what we do. Like, what do we do to fix all this? Well, Conservative Daily's been around 13 years. It wasn't until 6 months ago I said, hey, we need to build a podcast. We need to get on that podcast. And then for the first 2 months, I didn't show my face on that podcast, right? I lived in this place where I was like, I've always been the quiet one. I've always been the one that led from the front, but didn't need notoriety, didn't need to show my face, did not need to take credit, didn't need to feel the need. I don't need it. I mean, there's many things I don't need in my life. Number one, I've been blessed. So regardless of what happens, I can go drink Mai Tais on a beach somewhere and I will be just fine. But will you? And don't I have an obligation as an American, as someone that cares for people that sit next to me, to build opportunity, but to actually step out with courage? So I'm going to show you the progression of this. 13 years. It took 12 and a half years to get to the place where I was comfortable. I was building businesses and doing other things and helping people. And by the way, I personally give more money away every year than most people make in 5 years. I do that. I sit on boards with very, very, very liberal people. And people go, why would you do that? And I go, because if I'm the only other dissenting voice and I don't stand up, how far left will they go? How far crazy can they go if they live in an echo chamber where crazy becomes normal? So I sit on boards for organizations that do help people in the community. I do that. I volunteer in big ways for homeless. I donate food. I donate money. I donate my time. I help with incarcerated youth program. I mentor people in different areas. I do all of this for no credit. Up until this point, I've never mentioned it to anyone. People in the company know about it because people will walk in and say, hey, Joe has really changed my life. And I'm grateful for the fact that I'm able to leave that legacy to those people, that I'm able to help them get somewhere that they're not, to see something that they're not seeing. I love that opportunity. But it took me 12 and a half years to get to the place where I could actually speak about it because I didn't want it. I didn't want a thank you. I didn't want that's not why I did it. I didn't do it because I needed to get anybody's affirmation about who I am as a person. Most of the time, most of you are probably in that same place. Most of you have probably lived in such a way that you did not want to get out there and talk about the things that you've done. Most of you are probably very humble people, leaders in your own right. So what do we do from here? So we started an organization called FEC United. That means Faith, Education, Commerce. Notice that I did not say church. I said faith. But notice that the organization is first led by faith. It's the first thing that appears in the organization. We did also help with TIG, John Tig Tigan, build an organization called United American Defense Force. It's not a militia, but it sits next to FEC United. We operated in courage. We invested a lot of money, effort, time in this, have brought very smart people together in this organization so that we can actually build a national organization that has teeth. Conservative Daily, I feel bad that I've actually neglected a Conservative Daily, although it's big. We have 800,000 people on our email list that they send, we've been able to affect huge changes. Our member base is ridiculous, but we've also fallen short on the fact that we should have taken the technology we're building over here and applied it to what we're doing at Conservative Daily. So then we did it. We decided, okay, we're going to do that with Conservative Daily. We're going to do that with FEC United. We're going to do that with UADF. We're going to build out all of these different things to help people in the community feel like they're not helpless, that somebody will actually stand next to them, side by side, regardless of your political ideology. Because in FEC United, we don't care what you are. But if you're a leftist, if you're over there and you don't want to stand for what America stands for, then you can't be a part of it. But we want to stand up for faith, right? We of all faith. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean I have to go to a mosque. It doesn't mean that I have to go to a synagogue. It just means that they are free to actually exercise their faith and feed their flock. And I'm going to be who I am as a Christian, and I deserve to be spiritually fed as well. On the education side, we know that indoctrination is absolutely taking over our country. It absolutely is. In education, it is infecting it at every level. No religion has become a religion. And therefore, by suppressing religion, by suppressing God inside of schools, there is no moral or ethical standard by which people operate from. Commerce, businesses, there's organizations out there that have done nothing for businesses. Nothing for small to medium businesses. They only want to strengthen the back of the big behemoths. Give people holidays and say small businesses have coronavirus. Sorry, this is the genesis of how this all started, is that they shut down small to medium businesses and gave holidays to Walmarts and Targets and said, hey, look, coronavirus does not exist except for in small businesses. They destroyed people's families who spent their entire life building a business, only to have it taken away over 6 months because they weaponized a virus. You think the virus is real or not real? It doesn't matter to me what you think. What matters to me is how you've actually treated people through this process. You've devalued people. You've made them disappear. And if you don't think the difference between what big tech has done and what has happened in our society on politics, big tech wants to make people's opinions and who they are disappear. They want to make them irrelevant, right? So is the politicians. They're picking winners and losers. Notice that we didn't do that in North Dakota or South Dakota. Notice that South Dakota thrived. We're not hearing about mass deaths happening in South Dakota. Why? Is it because South Dakota doesn't have COVID? It only exists in the other 49 states? Why is it that some governor stands up with courage and yet no problem? So there's other parts of this organization that we built. And the reason why I'm taking the time to tell you about this, if you're listening to the podcast, is because it's important. So if you go to, and by the way, Facebook blocked FEC United. You actually cannot go to Facebook and put fecunited.com. That's Faith Education Commerce. So fecunited.com. You can't actually post it. It won't let you. It goes against the community standards because somewhere along the line, standing up for people in the community is wrong. It's wrong. Unless you're a radical over here and you're with Antifa and you're burning and looting and destroying people's property and taking from them because you justify it because you're just an asshole, right? Sorry, that's what you're doing. We can't get the message out. Well, let me tell you about what has happened in this organization. UADF has a pipeline of 3,200 people that have volunteered to stand up in their community, not have discussions with people who want to loot and steal and do all those things. No, not a conversation. We don't need a conversation. You're not going to convince them. They're flat evil. They come into the community writing a justification of Black Lives Matter only to actually forget about that completely and then show us their true face, which is socialism, Marxism, communism. So we built this organization, and it's in Colorado, and we have somewhere around 87,000 members, right? Unpaid members because we had to build out the organization first. But this is a first step. It was a step of saying we had to do something. UADF is doing something. And we have 9 other states that have said, look, this is going national. FEC United is going national. And when it goes national, we will have charters in every state. And then we will plant that seed, we will water that seed, we will bring people to the place where they have power in numbers, where they have the ability to stand up to this leftist ideology. That, ladies and gentlemen, is doing something. And it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. So I do want to thank you for listening today. I got to go through a bunch of little things here. That's my final word. I know it's a long final word. I hope you got through that final word. I just told you about an organization that in 22 weeks was able to do tremendous things. So I'm going to walk through where you can find us. You can find us on Facebook. Obviously, you can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Parler. Yeah, we're on Parler at Conservative Daily. Follow us. We'll follow you back. If on the podcast, you can follow us on Google Play Store, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean. We're everywhere. We do have some technology rolling out. I will tell you, 89517. I need you to text FREEDOM to 89517. We'll start getting that text out earlier so that you can actually get that text when we're actually starting. I want to tell you another thing. Man, just get on your knees and pray. We are 7 days away from the end of the election, and I am incredibly excited about what's going to happen. But as President Trump said as he walked off the stage in Wisconsin, let's finish this thing. Thank you for joining us, Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Joe Otto. Max McGuire is not here today, but until tomorrow, we'll see you soon.